Hi, and welcome to whatever this channel is about. And I want to talk today about kobolds, which people are like, what? What are those? Or you think you know what they are, and you're going to be wrong. Now, or maybe you're right. Maybe you actually know a bit about their history. But they are all Germanic beings, kind of like household spirits, like goblins, elves, brownies, things of that ilk. They are invisible, but they're also childlike in appearance, and they might help with domestic chores, or they might be a little tricksterous. Think of the old cobbler elf who would repair shoes, and that's basically what the old belief of kobolds were. And in fact, was it cobalt, the element, Cobalt, somehow derives from kobold as tricksterous minor spirits. Minor as in M-I-N-E-R, not the O-R type. Anyway, that's the original origin of kobold. Now, back a while ago, Tolkien came around and wrote some fantasy novels which kind of reshaped people's images of a whole bunch of fantasy races, which he never actually touched on kobolds. But he did change goblins into what people perceive nowadays, which is also something different than the original viewpoint. But because fantasy novels then gave birth to fantasy role-playing games back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, the biggest one being Dungeons & Dragons, one of the creatures from there was the kobold. And there it became a lizard-like humanoid, which somehow was one of the weakest creatures in the game, but was the relative of dragons. I don't quite get how that works. But since then, on the Western viewpoint, kobolds have become these lizard-like creatures, humanoid creatures, these tiny lizard-like humanoid creatures. And a lot of Western depictions happen to be of this. So you see them in fantasy games as such a creature. But if you move over to Eastern culture, Japanese culture, somehow it got reinvented as a dog-like creature, probably because they saw the image, and I believe the image of the original pictures of kobolds did kind of look like hairless dogs. And if you're just looking at the picture and not reading the captions, which someone from a foreign country would probably do, they would get their own viewpoint of it. So if you look at Eastern media, a lot of manga and anime, they have kobolds as these dog-like humanoids. And there's a whole gamut of what kind of dog-like creatures they are. But I would say nowadays, a good 90-95% of media depicts kobolds as either like these lizard-like creatures or these dog-like creatures, and ignores their house spirit cobbler elf aspect. It is interesting in that how they've evolved into what it was for hundreds and hundreds of years over the past 40-some years into something completely different. Well, not completely different, but mostly different than what it was originally seen. And even if you think about it, elves, because of Tolkien, have been reinvented into now, instead of being mischievous forest spirits, they are blonde, long-eared hunters, and other fantasy creatures have been like envisioned. And this can happen really to anything. One inciting incident can change how something is perceived. But that makes me think of, how do you cultivate your life knowing that what you do can be rewritten by one thing either inside your control or outside your control? As example, with the kobolds. Because I'm sure 100 years from now, the whole Germanic roots is going to be ignored in favor of these dog humanoids. Anyway, those were my thoughts today. Where have you seen examples of things that have been perceived one way for the longest time are now seen in a different light, totally different of what it used to be, and will probably never change back? Let me know in the comments. Thanks.